Up to this point, we have been exploring the structure of an HTML document and learning about the various HTML tags that are available to us as we are constructing an HTML document. We've also compared those documents to a regular Word doc and how a Word doc is created and the different pieces or parts of a Word document that are very similar to an HTML document. And we've talked about things like lists, headers, different sized headers, unordered lists, and ordered lists. Now we want to get into media. In most web pages today, we find all kinds of media. So if we look at Neumont's website, we see that on this web page, we've got all kinds of media. We've got images of people. We've got graphics like the logo right here. We've got graphics like all of these icons used inside of the navigation. We also have graphics down here, little images that are displayed, more images of people, more graphics. In other words, instead of it being a simple Word document like we've been using that analogy, instead we use the analogy, I think in the last video, of an HTML document being more like a PDF, right? A PDF where a graphic designer has gone in and made a Word document look a lot more appealing, visually attractive for a person. In other words, using graphics, images, and videos, we can draw people's eyes to different places inside of our page. And this is where links, the image tag, so links is in anchor tags, images, and then videos all come into play in a website or a web application. So today we're going to talk about how do we create links from page to page. So up here in the navigation, when I click on degrees, I am taken to a whole new page. And I know that happens not only because the page changes, but up here, if we look at the URL right here, it's just www.neumont.edu, which we've learned has an implied /index.html. And then when we click on a link, that link takes us to a brand new page. And here we see academics.html is where we were taken when we clicked on this academics link. And we've got a brand new page with a new structure, similar structure, but new content inside of that page. Right here we see that we're talking specifically about the Neumont degrees. So let's talk about anchor tags first and get ourselves an anchor tag added to our document. In my browser, I have my web page up and loaded. That was done using the right click and then preview server, the preview server plugin, which we installed in previous videos. So now we can see our web page live. So let's go ahead and let's add some anchor tags. So right here we've got an HTML, we've got CSS, and we've got JavaScript. Well, let's go ahead and let's add links to some documentation for those technologies that we're using in our web page that we've been constructing in this tutorial. And for that, we're going to go ahead and use links to the W3 Schools website where it talks about these specific technologies. And we're going to do W3 Schools links or anchor tags for the HTML and CSS. And then we are going to use the Mozilla Developer Network for our JavaScript. It has much better JavaScript documentation than W3 Schools, in my opinion. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go back to our Visual Studio Code. Let's identify the unordered list where we have those elements, so our HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Those are inside of list items because they show up in the list as individual items. And let's go ahead and add some anchor tags. So a lot of times they're considered links when we're talking generically about a web page and when we are linking from one page to another. But what they're really called are anchor tags. And an anchor tag uses the A as the tag name. So let's go ahead and let's isolate our HTML with inside of our list item. And let's wrap it in an A tag. Let's go ahead and move our HTML into that A tag. All right, so an A tag or anchor tag right here. Now, by default, just wrapping something in an A tag really doesn't do anything for us because it's not linked to anything. So we need to give it a link to some other page in our website or to an external website. And here we're going to do an external website link, and we are going to link it to the HTML documentation at W3 Schools. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my link. This is the link we're going to be using right here, is the w3schools.com, and we're going to go to the HTML, and we're going to go to the default.asp. This is similar to index.html. It's just they're using active server pages for their technology rather than just straight HTML, just in case you were wondering. So we'll copy that link. And for an anchor tag, we are going to do a hyperlink reference or a hyperreference to that web page. So all we're going to do is say href, so a hyperlink reference to this URL, which takes us to a completely different website. And that right there, once we save that and we go back to our web page and reload it, we now see that our HTML now is a different color based on the default cascading style sheet that's loaded by Chrome. And the other ones that don't have links are just plain text. So when we click on this, it should take us to that web page URL that we just put in as the hyperreference. And if we click on that, as we see, it takes us to the HTML tutorial. So let's go ahead and go back. Should take us right back to our website. And now let's go ahead and do the same thing for CSS. And for CSS, we're going to go ahead and use the W3 Schools link as well. So very similar to our HTML, it's w3schools.com/css/default.asp. And then let's go ahead and do the same thing. Let's go ahead and, within our list item tag, go ahead and isolate the CSS. Let's wrap it inside of an A tag. We're going to make our href to the CSS. Let's put our CSS inside the A tag. And now we've got two links to an external website. When we reload it, we've got ourselves two HTML links in there, or anchor tags. All right, so one thing we did see is that when we do a link to another page, another HTML document, what we end up having is a link that takes the current browser tab and loads in it the page that we were just working with. Well, that's okay if you're within your own website and you're having the individual visiting your website navigate within your own pages, meaning that they're inside of your domain, working inside of your website. We don't mind that the tab reloads and loads the next page. But when we have a link inside of our website and it goes to a third-party website, something that we're not in control of, we don't really want the user to lose where they were in our website, which is what just happened. So if the user gets referred to W3 Schools and then they kind of get off on a tangent and they start looking at all this other stuff and they're just looking at all these other technologies, and then they get so deep that they can't remember how to get back to your website after they're done with their tangent, which we know happens all the time when we're on the internet. Well, if they've clicked and they don't remember how to get back and they don't want to sit and click the back button until they get to your website, we've just lost that user. They probably won't come back to our website unless they have a really good reason to, because the effort to get back to it can be a little bit painful. So what we want to do is, instead of making somebody click back like this to get back to our website after they're done with their tangent, is we want to use the target attribute of an anchor tag. So what the target does for us, so let's look at this one really quick. Now let's do target, and inside of target we can do any number of targets that actually allow us to define how this URL or this web page gets loaded. Whether it gets loaded in the same tab that we're currently working in, if it's our own web page within our own website, or if we want it to open in a new tab so that the user doesn't lose where they're at in our website. So let's go ahead, and we want to make sure that these two links outside of our website open up inside of new tabs so that the user doesn't forget where they're at in our website. So to do that, what we're going to do is we are going to use underscore blank as our target. So using underscore blank should allow us, when the page reloads, to click on this HTML. That's the one we put it around, is the HTML link. It should open this up in a new tab. And if you notice, a new tab was loaded and then the page was loaded. And where they were in our website stays the same. So we don't have to worry about losing that user. So if they go off, look at a whole bunch of other technology, they go off on a tangent, and they get lost in W3 Schools, which is really cool. We want them to learn. But they get done. Instead of needing to click back a whole bunch of times to try to figure out where they were on our website, they can simply close this tab, and they are now currently back to where they were on our website. We want to do that to both of these links because they both go to an external target. And we're just going to use blank. So blank, and then when you have no target, those are pretty much the two that we use most frequently. If you go to W3 Schools or you go to the Mozilla Developer Network, you look at HTML and you look at the anchor tag, you will find that the target also has several other ones that you can use. But the two that are most frequently used, which we're going to focus on in this tutorial, are just blank, which opens up a new tab, and then of course no target whatsoever, which opens up the linked document in the current browser tab. All right, so that gives us linking to an external resource and having that open up in a new tab. And we were going to do that with JavaScript as well, but we were going to go ahead and use the Mozilla Developer Network JavaScript reference, because that is the one that is the most in-depth and the one that I like the most. So we're going to use it for JavaScript. So let's do one more anchor tag, just to make sure we've got this all figured out. Anchor tag. Again, this opens up a third-party website, so we're going to use blank as our target. And we're going to do for our hyperlink reference to the JavaScript reference. And if you notice, Visual Studio Code doesn't automatically take the text that you're adding an anchor tag to. It doesn't automatically wrap it right there around the tag. So sometimes you have to move it from behind the closing tag back into or in between the opening and closing A tags, as we did on the HTML and CSS as well. So let's go ahead and double check that. JavaScript should now open in a new tab, the Developer Network, and we should have the JavaScript reference. So that's good. All right, so this is linking to external resources in our website using target blank. Now, a lot of times we're going to want to reference pages within our own website, and we're going to want to make sure that a user can get to other pages in our website. So here we're on our index.html. Let's go ahead and add an about.html page. And again, just like our index.html, we need to make sure we give the basic HTML structure. So we're going to do our doc type HTML. We're going to do our root element of HTML. We're going to add our head tag. We're going to add a title. Oops, not time, but title. And inside of our title, this is our About Us page. We're going to need a body for all the visual content that we're going to display. And then let's go ahead and put a simple H1 in here. And let's just say all about us. All right, so this gives us a simple page to link to that's within our own website. So let's go ahead and show how we would do that. Let's figure out where we want to put it. We got my website. This page is getting started. So let's go ahead and put it under my website. Let's have ourselves a little navigation. We're going to use an unordered list really quick. It's not going to be super pretty, but it'll be effective. We're going to do an A tag. We're going to have the hyperlink reference go to about.html. and then we're going to say about us. All right, so if we remember in previous tutorials, when we do the slash in front of a link, in front of a URL, and we don't have the fully qualified domain in front of it, what this tells the web server when this request goes back to the web server is start at the root of our website, and then you should find an about.html within the root directory. And if we look at our website file structure over here, we see that we are in our root directory here. We actually don't have any subdirectories, so no subfolders. And since the index is in the root and the about is in the root, this link right here tells the web server that in the root we should see an about.html, which we have right here, about.html. So if we go back to our browser, we see we have a new link here that's about us. It is underlined, showing us that it is a link to another HTML document. But unlike our HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which we all used the target blank on, we have no target. Therefore, the default is going to be self, which means it's going to load in our current browser window, so in this tab. And as we see, we've got a slash about.html, which means this about.html sits inside of the root of our website, as expected. And then we can click back, and then that gets us back to our website. And if we wanted to make sure that we can get back, we can go ahead and take our unordered list, which is our navigation, go to our about.html, underneath our H1, add our list, and then instead of about, we can say index.html. And now we have a return link that takes us from the about us back to the index. And we'll change that text to home. And now when we come back to our web page, we're on our index.html. We click about us. Now we've got home. We can click home. And as you see, it took us back to the index.html. All right, so this covers anchor tags in an HTML document and provides us the ability to create navigation within our website to external websites or web pages or HTML documents, as well as to HTML documents within our own website.